Okay. Resource management. Resource management mean, remember we say there are 5 M's that represent all resources: man, machine, material. There will be 3 main or major resources. Then from this thing will generate so-called money. Money basically do not stand by itself. When you pay to people salary or wages, then money is being generated. When you pay the machinery rental or purchase, then money is there. Material, of course, you need to purchase the material, so you pay people money. Okay. And then some people say resources could be the method. Okay. Yes, method or technique. Sometimes you need to pay people, the expert, for instance, in order to install a proper technique. But the technique itself is not going to be paid separately. It is part of the, normally people will put the technique, the expertise, the technology into the material itself or into the machineries. For instance, when we are using formwork system, instead of using traditional formwork, we are using formwork system. So formwork system normally very expensive compared to conventional. Why? One of the thing is the material itself, and then the technique or the method being used. So meaning to say you are paying money for the method or technique. Okay, the if we compare the material itself, it's not going to be very expensive if we compare to the conventional formwork, but then you are paying money for the method or technique. That will be a specialized technique which can make work faster. All right. So we already mentioned about men last week. The video that you gone through is basically about labor management. In that labor management, we already show you how to do resource leveling and resource what we call smoothing technique. Okay, in computer software such as Microsoft and Primavera, project leveling function is there, but project smoothing function is not there, because project smoothing involve a lot of decision by the scheduler or basically human itself. The machine cannot basically do that for the time being. Maybe next time they can manage to do that, because it's quite complicated, because you need to decide where do you want to basically place the activities so that your resource requirement would be smooth in terms of gradual increase and gradual decrease. We do not want to have a very abrupt changes of manpower weekly or even monthly, because it is very difficult to get people nowadays. For instance, there might be workers, but all the workers are being stuck at one particular project. You simply cannot get them. Okay, that would be the issue. Okay, now we want to focus on the next item, will be machine. Okay, machine. All right. Okay, planning of machinery, equipment problem, and then the issue of acquisition, maintenance, economic evaluation. We are not going to cover in this class. It is in the slide, but normally if you take elective subject, construction plant and machinery, you will learn about this thing a lot. So in our class, we do not want to go into this calculation. Okay. All right. One of the most important resources to be managed is machinery. Yeah, because we simply cannot do away without the machinery nowadays. Maybe in the olden days, a few hundred years back, everything is using manual. But now, if you do manual, the client might not like it. Okay, it could be cheaper, but then it will take ages in order to excavate something using manual laborer compared to excavator. Well, you can imagine how much time that you need to spend. Okay, even though using machinery could be more expensive, but in terms of time saving, it is worth compared to manual laborers. And then, how about the cost of machinery? Okay, now we go back to the concept. Contract value equal total cost. Total cost meaning to say total construction cost. That could be a better definition. Construction cost plus profit. Okay, so contract value is the one had to be bear by the client. Client is the one that pay the contractor contract values. So the liability of contractor is basically here. Total construction cost is the one that contractor had to bear, but then he already put into the contract or the tender everything. We call it direct cost, DC, and then indirect cost, I call it IC or DC. DC mean direct cost. Okay, indirect cost normally around maybe less than 10% of the total cost, around. Okay, normally related to item called preliminary. Okay, you can Google. Maybe perhaps you have learned in your construction technology and estimating class some of the items that we call preliminary, including all utility bills, contractor sign office, etc. The cost in terms of managing the project itself. But in terms of the real cost, in order to construct things being asked in the contract document, so this is direct cost. Normally, man, machine, and material could be amounting 90%. So majority of the cost would be going to the material, manpower, and machinery. If we split 90% into 3, then you come up around 30% each. But then it's not going to be the same. The amount will not be the same with regard to the type of the project. There are so many variation type of the project. Infrastructure would be different, building would be different, high-rise would be different. So for instance, if we do infrastructure project, we can expect a lot of machineries and material costs compared to manpower costs. Okay, if we do building works, perhaps due to the nature of high-rise, the machinery might be very limited because of the issue of constrained space, for instance. So the majority of the cost would be going to, I would say, material and then labor. Okay, so that's why the range is not going to be the same, but 20% or even 10% is a big amount. Okay, is a big amount that you need to manage. So you just imagine, let's say the contract is about 10 million. Contractor total cost would be around 9 million. The profit could be around 1 million. So 1 million out of 10 million, that would be around 10% of the profit. This could be, we can say, is about net profit. Normally when contractor put the profit, in Malaysia, they normally put higher amount because of the poor control. At the end of the day, the targeted profit might not be around that figure, but whatever it is, they still make money from a project. Okay, so let's say 10%. So even 10% is very difficult to achieve. You need to basically control the project so that the cost will not be increased. So when you increase the cost, then subsequently the profit will be decreased because the client will not pay you more than what it is being signed in the contract unless the client themselves ask for changes. Then you can ask more for more money, but normally that is the things. That's why we sign the contract at the beginning of the project in order to lock in terms of amount. Okay, so we just imagine if, for instance, the 10% of the profit also very difficult to get or to manage, and not how about a big amount of percentage here that goes into machinery, manpower, and material. So we need to really manage machinery. Otherwise, it will reduce our profit. Okay. All right. So we need to manage properly, and in order to basically uh, get the targeted profit, we have to expect what could be the potential problems. Okay. Leveling. Leveling, as we already mentioned in the first topic with regard to manpower, labor resource management, can also be applied into machineries. When we talk about leveling, it can be applied to man and machinery. And normally we do not do that on material because material, there are so many type of material, and it is very difficult to schedule the material. Okay, even though you can do that, but it is very difficult because you never know in terms of the quantity that you are going to use, because sometimes you buy in bulk and how much it goes into certain places. So you can do that, but basically it is too complicated. All right. Now, the issue why we do planning and scheduling is basically to optimize the utilization of equipment. Let's say two or more activities. For instance, there are two activities running almost at the same time or at the same time, but both activity basically require the same machinery, such as crane, let's say. So crane have to work here, and the crane also have to work at this is A, B activity. Maybe if that activity are very close, that's okay. The crane can move around very easily. But just imagine A is another block, B is another block. How exactly crane is going to move around? It is very difficult. Even tower crane also, uh, people are not going to be happy, especially the tower crane operator, when they have to move the crane around in terms of the radius, because it make it difficult to maneuver. Okay, it's better to concentrate on one particular spot. So then you have decision to make. Okay, you have decision to make. So that's why if this one is a critical activity, this is non-critical, then your decision is very easy. You focus the crane on the critical activity first. Then basically you can do the non-critical. Why? Because remember, non-critical basically do have total fluid values, whereas the critical activity doesn't have any total fluid. Total fluid will be 0. So meaning to say, activity A cannot be moved around either to the right or the left side of the work program. Okay. And B, if B do have a few days of total float, meaning to say activity B can be delayed a little bit. Okay. While waiting for the crane to clear off the work at in activity A, for instance. Okay, so that is where planning play very important part. If you do not do planning, then basically you will not expect this kind of problem until the problem basically really happen. Okay, that particular moment, then the problem happen. then only you want to think about the solution. By that time, it's too late already. So the idea of planning and scheduling is to think ahead of time before the problem exists. So that's why planning is being considered as the heart of project management. Okay, so the heart of the project management meaning what? If the heart stop beating, even as human being, is our heart stop beating, then that's it. Okay, there is no more life. Similarly, in project management, planning is very important. Everything basically boils down into planning. Several problems faced by the contractor during the construction can be seen in these fishbone diagram figures. For instance, breakdown. This is very common. Machine breakdown. Why machine breakdown exists? Because there is no maintenance, or even I would say maintenance culture. In Malaysia, because we are not being considered as developed nation yet, okay, so there are a lot of issue with regard to mentality. Okay, we basically lack in term of culture, a lot of culture, not culture as the word culture. We are talking about organizational culture, safety culture, maintenance culture, ethical, whatever, many things. So maintenance is not a part of our culture yet. People have the mentality, when things break down, then only you will repair. By right, we should be using preventive maintenance, as if you are buying a new car. Okay, when you are buying a new car, then basically you tend to follow the strict maintenance rule. Why? Because you know that if you do not follow, then the warranty will be void, because you bought very expensive car, not amounting of 1 or 2,000, a few, even 100,000. Then basically you have to follow the rules. But then what happened after the warranty period lapse or finish? Then it will start again. Okay, it will start again. You will not maintain the car or the motorcycle until it broke down. Then only you go for repair. But if you do the preventive maintenance every 5,000 kilometer, 7 or 10,000 kilometer, so you will expect the life what we call period of the machinery or equipment would be longer. Overusage. Machinery is not like our car. Okay, we drive a car on a good road, but when we use machinery, you just imagine at construction site, you cannot even move your motorcycle or car in the construction site area. Only particular site office that you can drive through. Otherwise, you need to use the drill. Okay, overusage. People basically use the machinery non-stop. Even sometime at night or so, the machinery have to work. So because of heavy usage, then you put pressure on the engine, everything on the machinery. And then unavailability. Unaware of market availability, especially when you want to use a very special equipment, such as what? Maybe in piling, for instance, we do have pile injection method. The pile injection machine normally costs around a few 100,000, and not many machinery, that kind of machinery around. Okay, so let's say you want to start your project at certain particular remote area where you cannot expect to get those material, the machinery easily. Even though the machine might be there, it might be basically tie up with the schedule. People already booked. That would be the issue. So planning allow us to see the potential problem. If, for instance, you expect that you are not going to get that machinery during that particular time, then what could be the solution? Okay, you come up with the alternative. No requisition. No requisition. The word requisition mean when you want to use certain machinery material, you need to request. Okay, you need to put an order. You order those things first, in terms of timing, how many quantity that you want, then basically the machinery is going to be delivered to you. Okay, when you do not do that, then basically you simply cannot get the machinery during that particular period. That's why planning play very important part. And then the issue of stolen equipment, because the equipment is very expensive, then there is a tendency that it will get stolen. Okay, so that's why at construction site we block the area, we put a fence around, and then we do have security guard, CCTV, etc., etc. And that's why in developed nation normally they do not build workers quarters inside the construction site, because construction site is no man's area, but right, nobody should be there after the period of the work at the end of the day. But we are maybe in the next few years, for instance, we might basically have those kind of rule being placed. There is no more construction quarters inside the construction area, because there are so many issues with regard to safety, security, health, and then welfare of the workers. Okay. All right. Then inefficient in terms of what? Under capacity or overcapacity. Overcapacity basically with regard to the cost. When you bring a bigger equipment, even though it can do a lot more works, but then you need to pay more. Sometimes you don't need to have a big excavator in order to excavate a very small hole, but then the issue of that is the only thing that you have. Okay, or you bring a very small one. When you bring a small capacity crane, small capacity excavator, so you expect the work is going to be longer. And then unskilled operation. All the machinery normally being managed or operate by so-called operator, crane operator, everything we call it operator. Okay, and sometimes we can purchase, rent big machinery, but then the issue of who is going to operate those things. The bigger the crane, for instance, the more skillful that the operator should have to be. Okay, they might not be people who basically have a license for 300-ton crane or even bigger. Only a few people around. Okay, so you must think about those issues. Uneconomic age. Uneconomic age mean everything that we buy, including our handphone, can last only how many years? Similarly, machinery is also like that. Okay, we can say that in old days, normally the calculation for machinery we put around 5 years, because 5 years is the optimum years of where machinery is still efficient. After that, then it start. Okay. After that, because the issue with the engine and whatnot, the machinery might not be performed efficiently. Okay, that is the issue. Shortage. Shortage, for instance, why machinery shortage? There could be a few activity running at the same time, and you only put one machine at that particular site, and then there are a few activities that require that machinery to be shared among the activities. So how to solve this issue? Then you have to look at your planning again. Okay, so planning play a very important part. Unplanned. Unplanned meaning to say when you miss out certain things. That's why when you do planning in the Microsoft project and whatnot, a lot of people do not put resources. When you do not put resources in terms of man, machine, and material, then basically you simply cannot see when basically you require that machinery to be purchased, to be rent, to be to be put at that particular construction site. You simply cannot see. So just imagine if you have thousand activities, you simply cannot know which one basically require that machinery easily unless you put those things in your scheduling software, because scheduling software acts as a tool to remind you. You can even print out so-called what we call resource usage. In Microsoft project, there is a view that you can resource usage. So you can print out all the machinery, and the computer will tell us when basically do this machinery being required, how many quantity of them, and etc. Okay, so with regard to shortages, because it has something to do with planning, since we are the one that do planning, so we can do something about that. The other thing is very difficult to control. For instance, the market availability, that is very difficult, because we never know what could be in the market right now, what kind of machinery around. It depends on the trend. And then in terms of stolen, even though we can do so much CCTV and whatnot, but people who stole things tend to be very more creative, so they will come out with all the ideas. Sometimes they even collaborate with the security or inside people, so sometimes it's very difficult to control. Okay, but in terms of planning and scheduling, we are the one that control, we are the one that do the planning and scheduling. Why don't we focus our energy on the issue of planning? This is where the planning and scheduling will be utilized in order to help us in what we call resource management. Okay, so you notice issue like this, poor maintenance. Okay, poor maintenance, and then you see, poor maintenance will not only affect the productivity, but it will affect safety. The all what we call scaffolding, crane or whatnot will basically collapse by itself when there is because of the all the rusty part and etc. And then this is the issue of capacity. Okay, when you use something which is basically over capacity or big capacity, it depends which one is the is it the overload, or this one is basically less capacity. Okay, in terms of machineries, all right, you see, there is a, this is what we call bucket. This is what we call bucket size. Okay, bucket size. Uh, in Malaysia, we might not see a big this big machinery, but in overseas, there are a lot of machinery that they basically come out with, and they have been using those machinery effectively. If, for instance, you are excavating a small drain, hole or whatnot, why you need to bring a big bucket size of excavator? Because when you bring a big size a bucket, in terms of bucket, this is what we call bucket, then basically you need to backfill again. Okay, you need to backfill, and it will basically cost you in terms of time and energy, etc., etc. So you must choose the right machinery. Okay, and all of the machinery, construction machinery, usually being tied up with what we call cost. The bigger the capacity of the machinery, the more cost that you need to pay. Okay, all right. Then in terms of acquisition, how do you acquire? Acquisition means to say, how do you acquire the machine, or you get the machine? Through which method? In Malaysia, because our tax structure, not only machinery costs a lot, even a normal car will cost you normally double than what the cost of the car at other place. Okay, for instance, uh, if you drive what we call Toyota Vios, it will cost you around 80,000. The real cost is only around 40,000. If you compare to other country like US and whatnot, you will know The selling price is normally half because of our tax structure. That is the issue. Okay, because it costs a lot, then basically you need to basically make decision whether you need to purchase or own. Okay, purchase and then own the machinery, or basically you need to basically rent or whatnot. So we do have a selection here. Okay, machinery acquisition, you purchase, you rent, and then there is another thing, lease. Okay, so purchase is basically you use your own money or you basically take a bank loan. Basically, the machinery is yours, so it depends up to you how are you going to use. Okay, but then even though if you already purchased that machinery, it doesn't mean that the machinery basically costs you nothing, and you will charge the cost of the machinery at construction site is basically zero. No, no, no. You also need to do the calculation how much money that basically you need to pay the bank, etc., etc. At the end of the day, you will come up with the unit rate of machinery. It will be less than if you rent for sure, because if you rent, it is just is someone else basically own that machinery, so that someone basically doing business, and then he will charge you more because he himself have to make profit. That is the issue with the rental. Normally, the unit rate will cost more. Let's say the unit rate for excavator is around, I'm not sure how much. For the rental could be around, sometimes people charge 300 to even 400, okay, per hour. Uh, you see, just imagine. Maybe if you do the calculation, if you purchase, it will cost you around 200, okay? So there is a cost saving there. And at the end of the day, the machinery is yours compared to if you just simply rent. How about lease? Lease is basically similar to rent, but normally we use the terminology of lease is for a longer period of time. We do not lease for simply 1 hour or 1 week. Normally, lease is being associated with a longer period. Maybe you lease for a few months, years, and etc., etc. That is the concept. Okay, and even lease, they could be option. At the end of the day, after, let's say you already lease the equipment for a few years because you do not want to purchase. If, for instance, you basically you purchase, by the time you finish the project, it will be yours. But then basically maybe during that particular time, your thinking is different. You do not want to have headache with all the machinery stolen and whatnot. You simply want to lease. But then you realize after using that thing for a few years, if you add a little bit more money, then the machinery could be yours. So that is the concept of leasing. Well, you can basically own at the end of the day with extra payment, but then the normal situation, basically, the machinery is not yours, still belong to the owner of that machinery. Even this concept now has coming down into the car industry. You can now purchase car. For instance, Toyota, Mercedes, BMW do have this kind of option. Okay, do have this kind of option. Basically, you are paying the rental. The car is not yours yet. Okay, let's say you pay the rent every month is about 500. Then you have been using for like 5 years. uh, if you add a few thousand more, then that machinery is yours. But if you decide not to add, so basically you want to buy or to use another car, different car, then you will start all over again because that car or machine is not yours. That is the concept. Then, if for instance you decide to purchase and own a particular machine, what could be the factor that you need to consider? The output capacity. Okay. Even you rent the machine, still you need to consider this output capacity, the best that suit your activities. And then not to mention about skilled operator. Not only you rent the machine, but how about people who operate the machine? You must basically um, get the right people. You can rent a machine, but without the right people to operate the machine, then that machine is basically useless. Market demand. Market demand. Basically, if you want to purchase machinery, for what reason? Maybe you have a project running at this particular time. Maybe it is running for 2 years. But what happened after the 2 years period finish? Are you going to get a new project? If you get a new project, then you save. But uh, what if there is no project in the next 2 years? Then what you are going to do with that equipment? You can rent out. Okay, you can rent out the machinery to other contractor, subcontractor. But then, is that machinery up to the market demand? If you buy a machinery which is not up to date or basically not in line with what being required in the construction, then basically you will have difficulties to even rent or even to sell back your machine. Okay, that is the factor that you need to consider. Okay, now this is example of the machine, and in terms of dumper, call it dumper here. Look at this size of the dumper. Okay, size of the dumper. Normally, it is being used in the mining industry, uh, not very much on the construction. Okay, but one round of the what we call haul of this dumper, you can carry a lot of weight. Okay, so the machinery is, the more that you need to pay. That is the issue. But you need to choose the right capacity according to your project. Okay, this is even a big one. Okay, manufacturers such as Caterpillar has been producing what we call very good type of machinery that cater for many specialized work in either in the construction or in the mining business. Okay, and then economic life. Economic life meaning to say, what is the optimum age for that machinery? It has something to do with the what we call efficiency. Normally, a machinery could be designed for 5 years, for instance. That is um the most used standard worldwide. Around 5 years, that could be efficient. But if you maintain the machinery, if you get a good mechanic that know the machinery very well, that machinery can be used. Maybe you can double up or triple the life cycle of the machinery. Okay, and then the other factors. Okay, other than the three that we already mentioned, for sure the cost. When you want to decide to purchase a machinery, the cost factor could be very important. Okay, very important, where you need to consider about the interest rate, where are you going to get the money from, etc., etc. Then you do have to do some kind of calculation. Economic lifespan, we already mentioned. Output capacity, we already mentioned. The brand also play a very important part. So brand has something to do with what? Maybe the resale value, and then the issue of spare part. Okay, and then the issue of mechanic to repair. If you get machinery from unknown countries where there are not a lot of that machinery around, then how are you going to get spare part, and then who is going to repair your machine? So similarly, when you buy a car, for instance, Well, you can buy a fancy brand car, which is not many people using. But then think about, if something happened, who is going to repair? Where are you going to repair? Okay. Some of the car, what we call dealer here, sometime in the whole of Johor only have one maintenance in Johor Bahru. If you are in Kota Tinggi, if you are in Segamat, other part of Johor, and then just imagine you need to go down to Johor Bahru in order to repair your car. Okay, similarly, machine is also like that. Market orientation. When you buy machinery, you must think in the next few years, is that machinery is going to be used in the industry? People still demand that machine or not? Let's say, for instance, in Malaysia, in the next maybe 5 years, we are moving into IBS industry. So what do you expect the machinery that will be used in the IBS? Is that going to be the same kind of machine compared to current machinery lineup? Well, I don't think so. In IBS, a lot of current machinery become obsolete. We might use a lot of lifting kind of machinery, okay, because everything is being produced at the factory in terms of component. The most important thing is to bring to the site. So transportation and lifting machinery. No more old type of machinery. So that is example of market orientation. And then multiple usage. Multiple usage is to basically to save yourself. What if you already finished your project and then you move into another type of project, which is totally different from the current project? Can that machinery still be used? Okay, I would say that machinery such as crane, for instance, basically can be modified into different usage. You can basically Google crane, what crane basically can do. Crane can become excavator. Crane can become what we call piling rig. Crane can become clamshell. Crane can be used for the timber industry. Crane can be used for the scrap industry. Many industry, once you modify a certain part of the crane example. So if you buy a crane, then basically crane can be used in many other industry other than construction. So basically you can still survive in terms of renting and whatnot. All right, so capital cost. When we talk about cost, perhaps you already learn in project estimating class how to calculate the unit rate for the machinery. How do people charge 100 ringgit per hour? Based on what? They must have calculation. So what we say here is the capital cost. Capital cost include the purchasing cost, the cost that you first buy the machinery, the interest that you need to pay if you purchase the machinery on loan, the insurance that you need to pay, depreciation. Okay, depreciation is the when you buy certain basically all the machinery, it will depreciate with values. Okay, for instance, you buy a handphone today that costs you 5,000, and tomorrow you don't like the handphone, so you want to sell. Do you think people are going to buy back at 5,000 ringgit? No, the moment you already purchase, and regardless whether you use that thing or not, then the price will drop, because people say there must be something wrong with that handphone that you bought, then you want to sell back. Okay, automatically if you sell at half price, then people will grab. Okay, similarly with the insurance, with the machinery. Operating cost. Okay, operating cost is the running cost of the machinery in terms of the operator, in terms of the maintenance, fuel, spare part, etc., etc. Then that would be the component. In comparison, capital and operating cost. I would say the biggest component would be coming from the capital cost. Okay, only maybe I'm not really sure. We really need to calculate. Let's say this could be around uh, let's say 70%. This could be around 30%. Okay, only after you already pay the loan, then basically this capital cost could be zero. What's left is basically only the maintenance cost. That's how, if for instance you want to compete with the old contractor which has been established, which basically purchase all kind of material, no, the machinery, you simply cannot compete. Why? Because the issue is that you need to pay 100 ringgit for the machinery, whereas that contractor only need the old contractor only pay 30 ringgit for the unit rate of the machine, because he already own the machinery. The only cost for him is basically the operating cost. Okay, there is no more capital cost. So the biggest part would be the capital cost. Okay, this is an example of machinery, and just imagine how big is this machine. And a lot of machinery around being invented in German. German have invented a lot of machinery being used in the factory, etc., etc. Because the way the education system in Germany, for instance, they already established a lot of TVET. People who are so-called do not go to university, okay, because their result is not as good as yours, for instance, but they simply can go to vocational school, technical school, where all those kind of invention happen. Okay, so just imagine this is an example of how big is this machinery. Normally, this is being used in perhaps a mining industry a lot. Okay, mining industry where one machine can do what we call cut, especially cut of the soil, and then process the soil and whatnot in order to get the mineral. Okay, maybe in the future, this kind of concept has been around, and in some country, they already have this kind of machinery. But because they are the one that invent those machinery in their country, so the machinery could be easily purchased at reasonable price. But if we are the one that going to get this machinery, it could be very expensive, and that's why contractor might not get this kind of machinery because of the issue of cost. Okay, so if you look at this machinery, go back here. Where is it? Okay, you look at this thing. All right, this machinery is basically excavator. Okay, it is not the excavator that we normally imagine. It looks like a driller. Well, it can, because of this shape of the excavator, it basically can drill, can excavate a very precise area. Unlike the current practice where the bucket size is like that, when you excavate, then you have to do the backfilling. So the backfilling will require more times. Okay, so there is a cost saving, and in fact, you can do work at much clean and faster way. And then another type of machinery where the main unit is here. The main unit is here, and then the only differences is basically the attachment. When this is what we call grader. This could be called roller, and this could be called bulldozer. You see, one unit can be fitted with a different attachment, then it basically become different machineries. So 3-in-1. That could be a lot of cost saving, okay, compared to current type of machinery design. And in the future, for instance, the solar, the electric kind of machinery, or even in car, certain country plan to ban the use of petrol or diesel in a car engine, meaning to say, in the next maybe 20 years, they will be totally electric in certain country. No more noisy petrol or diesel engine. Okay, so this is example of the usage of solar panel. Okay, so solar panel will be transported to the construction site, because some of the construction site could be very remote. You cannot get the electricity. Sometimes to get the electricity also will require a lot of bureaucratic delay because of the utility company, and you want to set up the line into the construction site, also very difficult. Now it's just better to bring the solar panel around with all these kind of what we call the unit of the what we call machinery, and then you simply attach them with different thing, so then it become specialized machinery. Okay, in summary, the cost of machinery and equipment is basically significant. It could be around 20 to 40%, which is very big, that we need to manage. And then machinery need to be bring to the construction site in terms of the right quantity, right capacity, right timing, and we can basically do that by a proper planning. Okay, planning and scheduling. And then the issue of selection of the machinery, because the machinery could be very expensive, then you must select the machinery according to many factors that we already mentioned, such as the capacity, market demand, the lifespan of the machinery, and then not to forget about the brand of the machinery, the availability of the operator as well, and many more factors, so that at the end of the day, you are not going to spend more than what you already budgeted for the machinery. So that's how you control the construction costs in terms of the machinery. Okay, there are a lot more that you need to control. The next one would be the material. Okay, so the calculation aspect we are not going to cover. Okay, you will learn that if you take the elective subjects such as plant and machinery. Okay, all right, that's it for the first topic. Let me stop recording on this one.